It's one of the most controversial arrests in Lee County Sheriff Carmine Marcino's tenure. A 10-year-old boy locked up, accused of threatening a mass shooting at his elementary school. Thank you for joining us. I'm Lois Tomey.
And I'm Russ McCaskey in for Chris Safati. Sheriff Marcino's decision to record and release a perp walk of a child piqued the interest of national and international news organizations. In a Wink News exclusive, investigative reporter Celine McArthur does something that Sheriff Marcino never did. Celine, you talked to the accused.
I did. I wanted to know what many of you have asked. Did this boy want to hurt people at his school? Daniel Marquez told me no. So I asked him what happened. Now, this is the first time we're identifying Daniel. His dad says they want you to see their faces when they explain.
Okay, my turn. My turn.
When you visit the Marquez family, you'll likely end up at the kitchen table. They love games.
Just close your eyes.
You can do it first.
Silly ones like staring contests, and the more challenging ones like the Rubik's Cube races. Both boys can solve these puzzles in a matter of minutes. In these moments, the competition is real, but so is the laughter. And in the end, no one is keeping score. And yet, in the bigger picture, the odds are currently stacked against Daniel. He's already been judged for a crime Sheriff Carmine Marcino claims he committed, texting a threat of a mass shooting at Patriot Elementary School in Cape Coral on May 27th, days after the Uvalde school shooting.
Did you think that you did anything wrong?
No.
But sheriff's deputies did. According to their report, Daniel texted someone pictures he got off Google of cash and 4 AR-15 rifles. Detectives say one text said, quote, scammed a friend. Another said, I bought this. A third text said, get ready for water day with a funny emoji. Daniel's explanation to deputies about the messages is blacked out. The report also doesn't include any other details that led them to determine there was probable cause for an arrest.
I went in one of the cop cars, and then they took me to the juvie place.
Did you ask them why that they were taking you away?
I didn't ask. I didn't really know what was going on.
Letitia Kim is the Director of Legal Affairs for the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism. The group is helping the family.
We need to take any kind of real threat seriously, but not at the expense of engaging in a moral panic where a 10-year-old child is suffering the consequences.
3 hours after Daniel was arrested and about 12 hours before his first court appearance, the Lee County Sheriff's Office posted Daniel's perp walk on its Facebook page with a caption from Marcino that said, quote, this student's behavior is sickening. But nearly a month after his arrest, the state attorney hasn't charged Daniel with anything. A judge did order him to serve 21 days at the Southwest Florida Regional Detention Center. Kim explains why minors aren't granted bail.
The Florida juvenile justice system operates on a point basis, and anything that is above, I believe, 12 points results in an automatic detention. And this is prior to any charges being filed whatsoever. And so in a sense, a juvenile in Florida has fewer rights than an adult who is eligible for to be released on bail.
I slept there in a cell, on a mattress with blankets and a towel. I just used the towel as a pillow.
Ironically, we can't learn more about Daniel's confinement or his case because that information is protected since he's a minor. But Sheriff Marcino chose to release selected details of this case and reveal Daniel's identity despite him being only 10 years old. That means the world has only heard the sheriff's version of events, and he admitted on national television that he never spoke to Daniel.
I'm sure you talked to the kid, the 10-year-old. Did he say why he did it?
You know, I didn't specifically talk to him. My detectives did.
With Karen D. Pasquale, a mental health expert who specializes in childhood trauma, by my side, I asked Daniel about the texts.
Well, I said I scammed my friend Jacob for $1 bazillion, and then I said that I bought these, and then I sent a picture of big guns. Then I decided to say, get ready for water day.
Water Day is an end-of-the-year school event. Now, Daniel got a response to his text the next day, but not what he expected.
I checked if my friend saw the text messages, and he did, and then but it was his dad, and then his dad said that he would call the police and to school and my parents, and then I told my dad, and then a few minutes go by, and then the police show up on our door.
What went through your mind? Why did you send it to your friend?
Because rifles are expensive, and I said $1 bazillion, a lot of money. So rifles are they cost a lot of money. So that's what I was thinking.
Daniel's 11-year-old brother Jonathan thought once detectives heard Daniel's explanation and met their family, they would see he's not a threat.
He never got in trouble in school. He never got in trouble with the law besides this, which then again is still outrageous in my opinion. Daniel, his sense of humor is not that great. He made a lot of jokes that were not that funny, but I feel like this is just one of his not really funny jokes taken way out of proportion. I feel like anyone with at least a half of a brain would see that he was not, he never mentioned the school, he never mentioned a mass shooting.
And Marcino isn't just anyone. Jonathan shared his thoughts with me after watching Lee County's Top Cop on social media.
When he saw it, he thought this is a perfect opportunity because of what happened in Uvalde, Texas. And so he took the wave, but I don't think he knew Daniel's background.
Daniel was released from the juvenile detention center to home confinement halfway through the 21-day stay because he got the flu on the inside. But that week and a half behind bars still had an impact.
Lately, he keeps saying, I miss you. Can I say, but I'm right here? And he said, no, I'm not saying that I miss you now. I missed you when I was locked up. And I told him it's okay. You don't have to worry. You're home. It was hard. It's okay. It's okay.
Whether he did something wrong or not, it's still a traumatic experience. And for him, I think the traumatic experience is actually what happened to him afterwards, especially a child that expresses a remorse, who thinks that they're just doing a child thing that maybe did go a step too far. They need to understand that they're not a horrible person.
I sat down with Sheriff Marcino to ask about the arrest.
What's really wrong is that you don't look into it and there's a mass shooting. Let's talk about that.
Oh, no,
Let's talk about that.
There's no disagreement about that. And I don't even think the family had disagreed with that, because I think everything needs to be investigated. It's just wondering if maybe he was condemned now because of this, and he doesn't get to go through the due process, and that he isn't innocent until proven guilty.
Well, the court system's going to kick in. The process will kick in. We determined there were firearms in the house, and for the most important thing is, when those firearms are in the house, okay, that person has the ability to access them.
What if they're locked away?
Well, what if there's a key standing, in the drawer where he knows how to access those guns?
Why broadcast this all over the world while you're still trying to figure out what's going on?
I'm not the one broadcasting. The news media comes to me because I'm the sheriff.
No, but you posted 3 hours after he was arrested. At 7:31 that evening, you posted his perp walk.
The father is the one talking to everybody and anyone that will listen to him.
Well, that was the
conclusion of the investigation. So he's arrested. He's in our custody. He's arrested for writing threats to commit a mass shooting.
But he hasn't been charged, and he's at home now.
Well, he is charged. He went to DJJ. It's going the distance.
For clarity, the state attorney's office has not formally charged Daniel with a crime. They tell us they're still reviewing the case. Daniel's father says the sheriff was right when he said he's talking to anyone who will listen because he's fighting for his son's future.
I would like the sheriff to formally apologize publicly, saying that he was wrong and that my son is nothing that he claimed he was. I wouldn't even be against him publicly resigning and saying that he made a mistake, and that as a public official, this is not acceptable for anyone to do.
The father is angry, but not about the investigation. He agrees, see something, say something. What he doesn't agree with is how he says the sheriff has paraded his son around on social media, creating his own narrative of events. Now, that includes this post on TikTok. Daniel's mugshot is edited over a clip of Marcino's Fox News interview, and it's put to music. What sounds like Shoot to Thrill by AC/DC. As for the guns in the home, the father says they are locked up and deputies chose not to go inside to see them. Daniel's next hearing is in July, and we will be there.
Wink News investigative reporter Celine McArthur has been digging into this case and is the only reporter to talk to 10-year-old Daniel about what happened. She also challenged the sheriff on his version of events, and now high-profile legal and law enforcement experts are weighing in.
We begin with high-profile civil rights attorney and former Harvard Law professor Alan Dershowitz. You may recognize the name. Dershowitz represented President Donald Trump during his first Senate impeachment trial.
Well, this is Alice in Wonderland justice. Verdict first, trial after. The trial comes last of all. This sheriff had made his conclusion without regard to weighing the credibility of the evidence and its weight and its seriousness, and jumped to a conclusion far too quickly to satisfy due process.
Derek Marquez, Daniel's father, has guns locked away in the home. He says he told deputies about them when they first questioned Daniel. But those deputies didn't ask to see them or come back with a warrant to remove the guns or search for any other potential evidence.
Well, I think the availability of guns to a young person is a relevant factor in the investigation. But if the police are letting him back into the home without any confiscation of the guns or change in the security measures, obviously they've come to the conclusion that he and the guns together do not pose a danger. So it makes very little sense.
Dershowitz strongly disagrees with Marcino's decision to post Daniel's mugshot and perp walk video on social media after he was in custody.
Once the investigation is complete, there's no legitimate basis for showing a 10-year-old's face on television.
Florida law allows Daniel's photograph to be released since it's a felony charge. However, the law is not clear when it comes to releasing video. Dershowitz says Marcino's TikTok video, which includes a clip of Marcino on Fox and Friends, combined with Daniel's mugshot edited to a version of the AC/DC song Shoot to Thrill, defies explanation.
There's certainly no legitimate basis for having a song suggesting more than the evidence allows, and basically undercutting the presumption of innocence and making this 10-year-old seem like a mass murderer. That seems to have been something the sheriff did for his own political benefit and not for the protection of society.
In cases involving children, the details of the investigation are protected. Marcino, however, shared what he claims are the text messages sent from Daniel to a classmate, and he believes they speak for themselves.
When you look at this, okay, regardless of who it is, any person would look and say, guns, get ready for water day. That is a threat. That is a threat. That's a threat. And you know that as well as I do.
Dershowitz says he doesn't.
Those texts alone may constitute probable cause for beginning an investigation, but they don't even come close to satisfying any evidentiary standard like proof beyond a reasonable doubt. If every 10-year-old who made threats like that or told jokes like that or did stupid things like that were to be convicted, our jails and juvenile facilities would be filled with false positives.
Do you think the laws should change then? Should there be some adjustments? Because when the laws were created to protect juveniles, we didn't have the social media platforms we have today.
In this case, there is clearly insufficient protection for a juvenile as young as 10 years old. It would be very useful to have a commission to study how these changes should affect juvenile law. But the one thing that a commission will conclude is do not show the faces of 10-year-olds on television based on this kind of evidence. Do not accompanying that with songs that suggest killing. What the sheriff did here is simply inexcusable.
Dershowitz also says Marcino could face a civil suit, even a Department of Justice investigation into law enforcement misconduct. We reached out to Sheriff Marcino for comment. LCSO sent us this statement saying in part, quote, as the sheriff of Lee County, school safety is my top priority. He adds any threats made, real or fake, will immediately be investigated and taken seriously. The family says Daniel didn't make any threat real or fake, and they will be back in court August 3rd. Well, tomorrow at 6, 2 law enforcement experts explain what they think about the investigation and Sheriff Marcino's social media. I'll see you then.
Celine McArthur explores why words and the resulting actions matter on TV and social media.
Sheriff Carmine Marcino often speaks his mind about crime in press conferences and pre-produced videos on Facebook, TikTok, or Twitter.
Law and order, always. And the safety and security of my residents. I am playing games.
And it's not uncommon to hear Marcino call out people he's arrested live on TV or social media.
These people aren't human beings. He's a loser. And we got trash off the streets today. Yeah, he's an oxygen stealer. He really is an oxygen stealer. And he doesn't deserve to breathe the fresh air. That piece of is where he belongs. Behind bars.
In late April, he announced the arrest of a Fort Myers woman charged with animal abuse and revealed what he thinks should happen to the accused.
This oxygen stealer, okay, pile of trash, went to the Marcino Motel, but let's talk real. She should be euthanized.
Euthanized, by definition, put to death humanely.
So for a sheriff to come out and say, we're really going to stick it to these people and we're going to treat them the worst way possible, or at least that he would like to treat them the worst way possible and violate their constitutional rights, for a lot of people, that rings very true. They're saying, yeah, get that person. We want vengeance because they violated our codes of ethical behavior and conduct.
Professor Joseph Uzinski is with the University of Miami. One of his areas of expertise is political psychology. He doesn't know Marcino, but watched some of his videos. Uzinski says Marcino could be using what he calls a sacred rhetoric strategy.
It's very easy to do tough talk when the criminals are engaging in animal abuse or child abuse or something where everyone's agreed that the crime is really bad or perhaps beyond redemption. If he said he wanted to violate the constitutional rights of jaywalkers, that would be a bigger problem because no one's going to get behind that.
When I first heard that, I instantly thought about dehumanization language.
Neil Voles is the deputy director of the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition. He's a convicted felon who now advocates for people who've gone through the criminal justice system. He worries about the potential impact Marcino's language has on the community as a whole.
Words shape our culture. Words create language that creates the culture that our community and our society adhere by. And if we lose track of the fact that we're all human beings, operate in the same community together, I think that leads to policies that are not good for public safety.
And not good for a fundamental principle of our judicial system, innocent until proven guilty. Voles believes Marcino's commentary convicts and condemns people before they can defend themselves in court.
We know what happens when a narrative develops around your involvement in the criminal justice system, whether you have a drug addiction, whether you had an incident that you're not proud of, and how those things can stick.
One of Marcino's most controversial social media posts is this. A perp walk of a 10-year-old charged with threatening a mass shooting at a Cape Coral elementary school with the caption, "This student's behavior is sickening." The post got media attention around the world, some positive.
Sheriff, what's going on with our kids?
Some critical.
But what he did exceeded his authority as sheriff.
That's civil rights attorney Alan Dershowitz reacting to Marcino's TikTok video with Daniel Marquez's mugshot edited to AC/DC's Shoot to Thrill. A video posted 12 days after Daniel's arrest.
I don't know whether or not one can say it rises to the level of crime, but it seems likely that it rises to the level of civil liability, and it certainly is morally and ethically wrong.
I just think he's setting a very bad precedent with the way that he's approaching things.
Karen DePasquale is a mental health expert who specializes in treating childhood trauma.
He's not taking due process of law in. I mean, is he saying that every single person they arrest is guilty? Has he gone to every trial for every person that's been arrested in Lee County? You know, and oxygen stealers? I mean, that's disgusting.
She's worried about the impact Marcino's spotlight will have on Daniel.
The sheriff wants him portrayed as some monster. You know, maybe he doesn't have the concept of what a 10-year-old's supposed to be like.
And what happens if Daniel is ultimately found not guilty? I asked Marcino in our one-on-one interview in June.
What if he's proven innocent? What if the charges are dropped?
Well, then publicly.
What if the detectives were wrong?
Well, I'll tell you this, they did a thorough investigation.
What if you were wrong?
Well, I'm not going to be wrong going with what I feel.
Right or wrong, Uzinski says elected leaders need to understand the risk of using sacred rhetoric.
It only takes one person to hear violent rhetoric coming from our government to go out and say, well, I'm going to fight fire with fire. I'm going to take action where perhaps the government has not, because they told me there's a problem, and they told me that violent action is okay, that violating constitutional rights is good. And someone may wind up doing that. And we saw that on January 6th.
I reached out to the Lee County Sheriff's Office to find out why Sheriff Marcino makes those controversial comments. LCSO emailed a response that they, quote, respectfully declined to comment. In the meantime, Daniel's family is getting ready for their August 3rd court date. And you can count on us to follow this story step by step on the air, online, and on the Wink News app.
We're now hearing some of the investigation that led to the arrest of a 10-year-old boy accused of threatening a mass shooting at his school. Welcome back. I'm Nicole Gabe.
And I'm Russ McCaskey. Wink News investigative reporter Celine McArthur has an audio recording of the last conversation the Lee County Sheriff's deputies had with Daniel before handcuffing him.
The audio recording includes some of what's blacked out in this arrest report for Daniel Marquez. The family got the nearly 7-minute recording from the state attorney's office during discovery and gave it to us. Well, a detective and sergeant from the Youth Services Investigations Unit interviewed the boy and his father outside their home. They swore Daniel in and then asked him to explain the texts.
Go ahead if you like.
I just wanted to send like a joke to my friend about something. Then I sent it to him like that. Like it was like this joke that I scammed someone for a lot of money, and then and then I said I bought like guns with it. And it was just a joke. I didn't mean to be seriously.
Okay. So, would you send it via text or?
Text.
Okay. Not like social media or anything?
No.
Okay. So where'd you get the photos of the guns?
Google.
All right, so you just Googled guns and found it?
Yeah.
All right, and then you snipped it or copied it and sent it to your buddy and said you scammed someone?
Yeah.
Okay. Detective Tyler McArthur then asks Daniel about the end-of-the-year event at Patriot Elementary, known as Water Day. The last text Daniel sent to his friend was, "Get ready for Water Day."
When you sent that scam to your friend, did you mention anything about school? No, nothing? Okay.
Did you mention anything about Water Day?
Yeah, at the end he said, have a good Water Day.
So today, I wasn't sure what he meant by that, because today they had a Cub Scout thing where they have to take a water test.
Okay.
Because when they get to the camp, there's going to be, like a pool thing. So I wasn't sure if that's what he was. Go get your phone.
Oh, okay.
So.
What, just make sure they can swim and stuff like that? Or?
Yeah, because so they're going to summer camp.
Daniel runs into the house to get his phone. When he returns, he reads the texts to the detective.
I scammed my friend Jacob. It was just a fake name.
I mean, you can hold it, but. Wow, for a lot of money.
Yeah, it was just a joke.
I imagine.
Wink News investigative reporter Celine McArthur shows you why your child, even your sheriff, could be next.
Let's start with the law. Florida statute 83610, written or electronic threats to kill, do bodily injury, or conduct a mass shooting or act of terrorism. It says it is unlawful for any person to send, post, or transmit or procure the sending, posting, or transmission of a writing or other record, including an electronic record, in any manner in which it may be viewed by another person when in such writing or record the person makes a threat to kill or do bodily harm to another person. Well, I asked
3 legal experts to give their read on this law. All of them say it's poorly written and missing key elements that safeguard your constitutional rights. They explain why that matters to you, why that matters to Daniel Marquez, to more than 50 other children arrested under this statute by the Lee County Sheriff's Office since 2016, and to Sheriff Carmine Marcino himself.
Unbelievable.
Larissa Lidsky is a professor at the University of Florida's Levin College of Law. She's not involved in the Marquez case and is watching our investigation into the boy's arrest for the first time while we're on Zoom. She supports the need to investigate the texts Daniel sent to his 10-year-old friend, but she's horrified when she sees Daniel on camera in handcuffs.
You perp walked him. You don't perp walk a 10-year-old. I'm sorry, unless they did a mass shooting.
By Florida statute, when you commit that felony, your picture goes up, and I don't care.
Daniel is charged with threatening a mass shooting under a statute Lidsky says fails to define a threat, allowing for too much discretion by law enforcement.
If I'm law enforcement, the problem is I have every incentive to overreact. Because if I get it wrong in evaluating a threat and something bad happens, I'll be blamed. And that's why it's especially important for the statute to be well written, to constrain the understandable tendency of law enforcement to overreact to something that might even remotely be perceived as a threat.
Ave Maria School of Law professor and former prosecutor Mark Bonner agrees.
Just doing an act itself can't constitute a criminal offense. You have to do it with the intent to commit the criminal offense, to do something bad with a guilty mind. So just because, for example, you kill someone, that doesn't mean that you committed a crime. Maybe you bumped them accidentally without being negligent and they fall off a ladder. You see what I mean? That's not a murder.
Sheriff Marcino told me back in June he believes Daniel's texts, that include the Google screenshots of money and guns and the comment, "Get ready for Water Day," were undoubtedly a threat.
Any person would look and say, guns, get ready for Water Day. That is a threat.
Professor Bonner says that's speculation, not investigation. Based on the words and pictures in the texts, Bonner says Daniel theoretically could have wanted a show and tell.
Well, here we don't even have Daniel really making a threat to kill anybody. You have to use imagination to turn that into a threat. He could have been going down there to show it to his kids as what a cool guy he is with this gun and this money.
The legal director for the Foundation Against Intolerance and Racism, which is supporting the Marquez family legal battle, agrees and says it needs to be spelled out in the statute.
There needs to be some greater objectivity that is included in the statute so that somebody can't be hauled into court and face charges based on some subjective, feelings.
All 3 warn that too many people with a smartphone or a microphone are at risk of being charged with this second-degree felony, punishable by up to 15 years behind bars.
Could scoop up any 10-year-old. How about a 9-year-old?
How about a sheriff? I asked if Sheriff Carmine Marcino could be charged under this statute based on what he said during this live press conference in May. After announcing the arrest of a woman charged with aggravated animal abuse, he said she should be put to death.
This oxygen stealer, pile of trash, went to the Marcino Motel, but let's talk real. She should be euthanized.
That comment's worse than what the kid did.
Bonner didn't want to say anything else about the sheriff.
I can say this, that this statute is so vague and broad that it could easily encompass a lot of innocent or non-criminal conversation or statements.
Could he be charged with that crime?
Well, potentially, if you're just going to read it as in terms of the impact on the recipient, could a recipient read that as a threat if that's his standard he's using under the Florida statute, and the Florida statute is unclear about the level of intent required? Yes.
So I would say this, Celine, if they are going to interpret this statute in such a way that would cover 10-year-old Daniel Marquez's texts and cause him to be charged with a crime, then they would also have to apply it in the same way to statements by Sheriff Marcino.
None of them are calling for the sheriff to be charged. They say the potential of that happening alone should serve as an eye-opener for police and prosecutors and encourage lawmakers to rewrite that statute.